My cheating wife shattered my world with her betrayal. At first, I thought it was just one mistake, one night of weakness, but I was wrong. The lies ran deeper than I ever imagined. I uncovered secret messages, hidden affairs, and a toxic relationship cycle of deception. Now I stand at a crossroads. Do I fight for a marriage built on lies or walk away before it destroys me completely? I never imagined my life would take such a turn. My wife Elena and I have been together for 13 years. From the moment I met her, I knew she was the one. We built a life together, moved to a new country, and had a beautiful daughter, Sophia. She was my entire world, and I never questioned our love. I never thought betrayal could creep into something so pure. But now as I sit here, smoking another cigarette and watching the ashes fall into the tray, I realize that love alone isn't always enough. Elena had always been different from me. I was outgoing, the kind of person who could find a hobby or a group of friends anywhere. She, on the other hand, struggled to fit in, especially in a country where everything felt foreign. She never really had friends here, and over the years, her isolation became more apparent. I knew she needed something to break free from the monotony of everyday life, something that would bring her joy. It started with a simple suggestion. Why don't you try making videos? I had said one evening as she sat scrolling aimlessly through social media. You love dancing and singing. You'd be amazing at it. She hesitated at first, but I encouraged her. I even helped her set up an account, edit her first few videos, and promote them. Before I knew it, she had thousands of followers. Men flooded her comments with compliments, and while a small part of me felt uneasy, I trusted her. She was my wife, my soulmate. Why would I ever doubt her? Then came Christmas. We traveled back to our home country, something we always looked forward to. It was a time to see family, reconnect with old friends, and take a break from our routine. One evening, Elena came to me with an excited smile. Would you mind if I went out with some friends tonight? She asked. I was genuinely happy for her. She rarely socialized, and I wanted her to enjoy herself. Of course, I said, you deserve to have fun. She went out that night, and the next, and then another. Each time, she told me she was catching up with her best friend, Laura. I stayed home with Sophia, content that my wife was finally experiencing the social life she had been missing. It wasn't until we returned from vacation that the cracks began to show. I was scrolling through Facebook when I saw a post from Laura. She had been performing on the very nights Elena claimed to be with her. My stomach dropped. I stared at the screen, reading and rereading the dates. It didn't make sense. Unless Laura had somehow been in two places at once, Elena had been lying to me. I didn't confront her immediately. Instead, I started looking deeper. The more I searched, the more it hurt. I checked her phone when she wasn't looking. I dug through old messages. And then I found them. A man's name kept appearing. Adrian. He was one of her followers. Their conversations started innocently enough, but then they turned into something else entirely. He called her beautiful, said things I thought only I was supposed to say to her, and she responded. She told him she felt alive when she was with him. I felt my entire world collapse. The messages confirmed my worst fears. During our 2-week vacation, she had been with him 5 nights. 5 nights while I stayed home with our daughter, thinking she was out with friends. 5 nights while I smiled and told her to enjoy herself. I confronted her that night. I held up her phone, showed her the messages, my hands shaking with rage and heartbreak. Who is he? My voice barely came out above a whisper. She froze. Then the tears came. I'm so sorry, she sobbed. I didn't mean for it to happen. My chest felt hollow. I had never known pain like this before. You didn't mean for it to happen? I repeated, my voice rising. You left me at home with our daughter so you could sneak off to be with him. She collapsed to the floor, covering her face with her hands. I regret it. I swear to you, I regret it. I love you. I love our family. Please don't leave me. Something inside me broke at that moment. Despite the rage, despite the betrayal, I couldn't bear to see her like this. I had loved her for 13 years. I had built my entire life around her. And now, as she sobbed in front of me, begging for forgiveness, I did something I never thought I would do. I lied. I did it too, I said. She looked up at me, eyes wide with shock. I cheated on you too, I continued. While I was away on business trips, I had opportunities and I took them. It wasn't true. I had been faithful to her from the very beginning, but I couldn't stand the crushing weight of her guilt, the look of self-loathing on her face. If I was guilty too, then maybe, just maybe, she wouldn't drown in her own shame. Her shoulders relaxed slightly. You did, she asked, her voice barely a whisper. I nodded, forcing myself to hold her gaze. Yes, and I regret it just as much as you do. She wrapped her arms around me, crying into my chest. Then we can start over, she said. We can forgive each other. We can fix this. And so we tried. The days that followed were strangely blissful. It felt like we had fallen in love all over again. She was more affectionate, more present, more devoted than she had been in years. But no matter how much she loved me now, the wound she left was still fresh. I thought about it every day. I dreamed about it every night. The image of her with him haunted me, no matter how hard I tried to suppress it. I started smoking more, 2 packs a day. I barely ate. My heart ached constantly, but I couldn't let her see it. I couldn't let her know that despite my lies, despite my efforts to protect her from her own guilt, I was dying inside. I still love her. I always will. But how do you rebuild something after it's been shattered? How do you move on from the knowledge that the person you trusted most in the world was capable of such betrayal? I don't have an answer. I only know one thing. I can't destroy my family. I can't lose her. Even if it kills me, I'll keep holding on. Then one evening, I received an anonymous message on social media. "You don't know everything," it read. My stomach clenched. I debated ignoring it, but curiosity got the best of me. I responded, "What do you mean?" The reply came quickly. Adrian wasn't the only one. She met others. She's still talking to someone else. My heart pounded. I wanted to believe it was a lie, someone trying to ruin what little was left of my marriage. But deep down, I knew. The cracks had only just begun to widen. And the worst part, I didn't know if I had the strength to keep holding on. Just as I was about to confront her again, another message popped up. "Meet me. You deserve the truth." Curiosity and dread warred inside me. But something told me I needed to hear whatever this person had to say. Little did I know, the night ahead would change everything. I hesitated for a long time before deciding to meet the anonymous sender. The location was a quiet cafe on the other side of town, a place I had never been to before. As I stepped inside, my eyes scanned the room until they landed on a woman sitting in the corner, her face partially hidden by a scarf. "You're the one who messaged me?" I asked cautiously. She nodded. "My name is Daniela. I'm Adrian's ex-girlfriend." I felt my breath hitch. "Why did you contact me?" She sighed, looking down at her coffee. "Because I know what Elena has done, and I know it's not just Adrian. She's been lying to you for longer than you think." I clenched my fists under the table. "Tell me everything." For the next hour, Daniela told me everything she knew. She and Adrian had been together for years until he suddenly became obsessed with a woman he met online, Elena. She found their messages, their secret rendezvous, and even confronted him about it. But Adrian wasn't the only one. Daniela had proof that Elena had been meeting other men long before this affair started. My stomach churned as she slid her phone across the table, showing me messages, photos, even receipts from hotel stays. My world was crumbling faster than I could comprehend. I left the cafe in a daze, my mind racing with thoughts of confrontation, of revenge, of just walking away. By the time I arrived home, Elena was waiting for me, a concerned look on her face. "Where were you?" she asked. I held up my phone. "I know everything, Elena. Not just Adrian. The others too." Her face went pale. "What are you talking about?" I laughed bitterly. "Don't lie to me again. I met Daniela. I saw the messages, the photos, the receipts." Tears welled in her eyes. "I can explain." "Can you?" I spat. "Can you explain how you've been betraying me for years? How you let me believe this was just one mistake? How you let me destroy myself trying to forgive you?" She dropped to her knees, sobbing. "I was lost. I didn't know how to stop. I hated myself, but I kept chasing the validation, the attention. And what about our daughter?" My voice cracked. "What about Sophia? You weren't just lying to me. You were lying to our family." She crawled towards me, grasping at my hands. "Please, I love you. I don't want to lose you." I pulled away. "You lost me a long time ago, Elena. I just didn't realize it until now." The days that followed were a blur of arguments, apologies, and desperate attempts from Elena to salvage our marriage. But I was done. I could not live with the lies, the pain, the shattered trust. I filed for divorce a week later. It wasn't easy. The process was long and exhausting, emotionally draining in ways I had never expected. But in the end, I got custody of Sophia. Elena, despite everything, still loved our daughter, and we arranged for shared visitation. But between us, there was nothing left to salvage. As I stood outside the courthouse on the final day of our divorce proceedings, I took a deep breath of fresh air. The weight on my chest, the suffocating pain, I could finally feel it lifting. For the first time in years, I was free. I walked away, knowing that I deserved better, that I would heal, that eventually I would find happiness again, and that was enough. That concludes this story. Let me know what you think about this, and leave it in the comments. Stay tuned and watch the next unbelievable, captivating life story. I sat frozen, unable to process what I had just seen. My cheating wife and daughters laughing on screen, casually discussing their infidelities. This wasn't just betrayal. It was the horrifying truth behind our toxic family. The perfect relationship we portrayed to the world was nothing more than a lie, hiding the darkest family drama imaginable. As their secrets unraveled before my eyes, one thing became clear. Everything was about to come crashing down. I sat frozen, unable to process what I had just seen. On the screen, my wife and daughters were laughing, casually discussing their infidelities. My wife Sarah grinned as she spoke. "Michael is the best lover I've had in 25 years of marriage," she said, a hint of pride in her voice. "Next week, I'll make sure each of you has your turn." My heart pounded in my chest as I listened, realizing that everything I thought I knew about my family had been a lie. To the outside world, the Harris family was the epitome of success. Sarah and I had been married for 25 years, raising our 3 daughters, Lily, Grace, and Emily. Each daughter had married successful men, and together we appeared to be the perfect family. We hosted grand Sunday dinners where laughter filled the air, and everyone seemed happy. But beneath the surface, something was terribly wrong. Over the past few months, Sarah had grown distant, and my daughters, who once shared everything with me, had become guarded. I tried to convince myself that it was my job as a corporate attorney that had distanced us, but deep down, I knew something else was at play. The truth was far worse than I could have imagined. It started innocently enough. Late one evening, while working in my home office, I received a notification from the security camera in our guest house. We rarely use the space, so I was curious. I opened the app and clicked on the video. What I saw shook me to my core. There they were, Sarah and my 3 daughters, sitting comfortably in the guest house, glasses of wine in hand, laughing as if they didn't have a care in the world. But then the conversation took a dark turn. Lily leaned in and asked, "So, Mom, are you seeing Michael again next week?" Sarah laughed, a sound I hadn't heard in years. "Oh, definitely. He's the best I've had in 25 years of marriage. Young, energetic, and perfect for our next rendezvous." The girls laughed along with her, and Emily chimed in. "So generous, Mom. Sharing is caring, right?" I stared at the screen in disbelief. My wife and daughters were casually discussing their extramarital affairs as if it were some kind of joke. For the next week, I existed in a state of shock. I gathered more evidence from the guesthouse camera, uncovering the details of their affairs. My wife was the orchestrator, guiding my daughters and helping them deceive their husbands. I felt sick. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was an intricate web of lies that had tainted my entire family. I knew I couldn't let it slide. By the time the next Sunday dinner came around, I had a plan. We gathered around the table, just like we always did, with the best china and wine. Sarah was beaming, blissfully unaware of what was about to unfold. My daughters sat with their husbands, David, Jack, and Mark, completely unsuspecting. After dessert, I stood up and raised my glass for a toast. "To family," I said, forcing a smile. Sarah smiled back at me, repeating the words. Then I dropped the bombshell. "Before we continue, I have something special to show you all." I walked over to the TV, connected my tablet, and pressed play. The room fell silent as Sarah's voice echoed through the speakers. "Michael is the best lover I've had in 25 years of marriage." The reaction was instant. David's face went pale, Jack dropped his fork, and Mark sat frozen. My daughters looked horrified. Sarah's smile vanished, replaced by shock. I paused the video and turned to face them. "I thought this family was built on love and trust, but tonight I'm revealing the truth." The silence was unbearable. Sarah was the first to speak, her voice trembling. "John, I can explain," I cut her off. "Explain? I think you've explained enough in these videos." I turned to my sons-in-law. "You trusted these women with your lives, but this is who they really are." David clenched his fists, and Jack glared at Grace. Mark, his hands trembling, simply asked, "Why?" My daughters tried to interject, but I wasn't having it. "This became everyone's business the moment you betrayed the people who loved you." I played another clip, this time focusing on Grace as she bragged about her affair. Jack stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "Is this true?" Grace could only manage a whisper. "It's not what you think." Jack's face contorted with anger. "It's exactly what I think." As more clips played, exposing their lies, the room descended into chaos. The husbands demanded answers, the daughters cried, and Sarah, the mastermind of it all, sat in stunned silence. But I wasn't done. I handed each of my sons-in-law an envelope. "These are divorce papers. I've vetted the lawyers myself, and I'll cover all the legal fees. You deserve better." The room erupted again as the daughters pleaded with their husbands. "We can fix this," Lily sobbed. But David wasn't having it. "You destroyed it," he snapped. Sarah finally stood, her voice desperate. "John, stop this. You're tearing our family apart." I stared at her coldly. "No, Sarah, you did that. I'm just showing everyone the truth." By the end of the night, my sons-in-law walked out, leaving their marriages behind. My daughters, once so confident, now faced the consequences of their actions. And as for Sarah, she packed her bags and left, knowing she had lost everything. In the weeks that followed, our once perfect family was in ruins. Sarah's social circle abandoned her, and my daughters were left to face the fallout of their choices. But I found peace in the truth. Betrayal is painful, but it also reveals what matters most: honesty and integrity. As I sat alone in my empty house, I knew I was free to rebuild my life on my terms. That concludes this story. Let me know what you think about this and leave it in the comments. Stay tuned and watch the next unbelievable real-life story.